Good afternoon, Rajul Kansal here. We'll be starting with the webinar now. So we have seen a few slides which have explained or which have detailed the something about the group that we represent. We are BYLD Group, Build Your Leadership Differentiators is how we define ourselves. So BYLD is the largest group in South Asian region, offering value-added services in HR, leadership development, business operations, manpower staffing, technology, executive coaching, and organizational development. So we started with Door Training and Consulting India Private Limited. It was founded by Mr. Yogesh Sood and Mr. Sandeep Buddhiraja. The leadership team includes Mr. Nishit Sood, Mr. Anand Diwan, Mr. Amar Vijay Tandur, and Mr. Ronald Soans. So moving ahead, we'll move to the, the organization that is holding this webinar, or the brand, that is Blanchard Research and Training India. So these are the core programs that we have. It'll be really helpful if people who are aware of Zoom as a platform, I did not annotate. So I'll start with I'm sure we have gone through the introduction of our brand. So these are the core leadership development solutions which are there with Blanchard. We represent Blanchard India. The principal is Ken Blanchard Companies US. So the programs like Building Trust, Coaching Essentials, and Optimal Motivation, these are the programs which provide you with the value that these names suggest. Building trust assists you in developing trust and relationships in workplace. Coaching Essentials delivers the bare minimum essentials of coaching as a conversation to be held. It enables an individual or the participants to ensure uh, that this becomes a language that your organization speaks. Optimal Motivation is a very highly researched program which talks of how do you make motivation an inherent psychological need rather than making it a regimented, regulated process for others. So moving ahead, today's session will be on self-leadership. Self-leadership has been highlighted in a different tone. Next to that is first-time manager. Now, I'm sure all of us are aware of Ramcharan, Professor Ramcharan. He is one of the authorities, foremost authorities on leadership in the world these days. He had written a book, a fable of sorts that we all follow, which was Ramcharan's leadership pipeline. So he had very clearly defined at each new thank you very much, Naveen. So he had very clearly defined that each new, bend in the leadership, which is a new role or a hierarchical upgradation of your role, requires specific skills, specific deliverables, and the expectations also of the organization change. So how do you manage to deliver on those while you have been very successful in your previous role, because of which you have been given a new responsibility? How do you manage that? I have my colleague Kanika with me. She manages West for Blanchard, and Indu, who manages South for Blanchard. These are the two colleagues who will be assisting me in managing the chat room. They'll be answering your questions, or if at all there's any question that I have missed, they'll bring it to my notice. Thank you very much. Srishti is assisting me in managing the session well, and she is doing a fabulous job at it. Thank you very much, Srishti. So moving ahead, we have SL2 experience, which is meant for tenured managers, unlike first-time managers, which is meant for the beginners in man management role. Then is team leadership. It's another beautiful program which addresses the requirement of people who are managing people who manage teams. So they are the managers of man managers, so to speak. Leading people through change is a regimented and a very well thought, researched, and implementation module of change. It tells you of how to create the infrastructure of change in your organization while the organization is preparing to introduce change. Legendary service, not a run by a mill program on customer centricity. This is a very, very thought provoking and deep program on how do you create your own vision of how you treat your clients, both externally and internally. So moving ahead, these are the supporting programs. Now, these are leadership development supporting solutions. These are essentially half a day modules which are going to assist you either in a journey that you've already created within your organization. These are very well researched programs, and they suggest and they deliver the value that their name suggests. There are few programs like Leadership Point of View, which are a keynote delivery, which happens to deliver the aspect of leadership from the point of view of the chief business officer or the CEO or your leadership head. So he delivers his leadership point of view and how he or she sees the or envisions the achievements that they have planned or promised to the management, and they then take the entire team ahead. It is assisted in this process. These people are assisted by people like Yogesh or Sandeep, wherein they are
Okay.
coached and they are informed of how to take this to rest of the organization. Now we come to the program self leadership, and what we mean by self leadership at Blanchard, we mean having the mindset and skill set to get what you need to succeed. So this program is going to ensure or answer the ask of people who want to be self sufficient in delivering what they are expected to do. In that, we have researched that there are two key aspects to addressing that. One is the mindset part of it, and another is the skill set part of it. So we will understand in greater detail what we mean by that. So if I were to ask you all, if you could just say a yes in the chat room or raise your hand or whatever, uh, if only, this is more like a wish list. If only I could assure you that, you could be in charge of your organization, and the first thing that you would change, and we have very clearly qualified that we are not talking of people, because I'm sure you would have earmarked certain people in your mind wherein you would want to change a few people. We're not talking of that. We're saying if only, if you were in charge of your organization, the first thing that you would change. And if you could get your boss to do certain things for you or treat you in a certain manner, what would it be? And also, we usually ask people to write down, what do you think this learning experience would help you do? Yeah. So when they write that in the beginning of the session, we take ahead the learning. And usually it sounds exciting. We spoke of mindset and skill set in the slide previous to the previous one. What we meant by the mindset is this: how do we challenge the assumed constraints? How do we activate the points of power? And how do we be proactive? Don't they seem like the things that you want for every new individual who joins your organization? Aren't these the three deliverables that you want them to operate from? If this is the mindset that they operate from, won't they be able to deliver very effectively on their job? So this is precisely what this program is looking to address. This is precisely what we look to address here, both the mindset and the skill set part of it. In the skill set aspect, we are looking at goal setting, because it's very important, as per our belief, it's very important for us to define very clearly what is the goal and how do you align people on that, what needs to be done and when. Then is diagnosing. In diagnosing, assessing your competence and commitment on a specific goal or task, and appropriately matching that. This is the model that we primarily talk of in this, and I'm sure you would all recognize this. This is the world renowned SL2 model, the situational leadership 2 model. uh, we learn the language of leadership from an individual contributors or the self leaders perspective. Now here we are not talking of an individual contributor per se. It could be a specialist, it could be an individual who holds a man management role. However, he or she is looking to become effective from the aspect of addressing the needs of his own self governance, his own need of being managed better and managing himself better. Yeah. So personal learning purpose is what we request people to identify. What is your personal learning purpose? It could be that you could be struggling in certain areas. It could be that you feel challenged in certain areas, or it could be generally that you want to improve a certain aspect of your work life. So what is it that specifically you need to improve? And this is which we begin our journey with. Now we first start discussing about the assumed constraints, and this is the first question we ask them, and we let them know of what are the assumed constraints. Now, assumed constraints are challenges that we think are stopping or hindering our progress. So I'm going to get behind on my work. Training is a waste of time. I'm shy. I'd rather learn on my own. So your assumed constraints potentially, which is specific to a training session, could be something like this. Now this is a great example to quote to people when they are beginning with an exercise, so that they have some idea of what do we mean by challenging the assumed constraints. So these are the potential assumed constraints. How do we address them? We challenge them. How do we challenge them? We show them a video of an elephant. and here this is a beliefs video, and we call it the limiting beliefs. Now you would have heard of limiting beliefs earlier as well. I'm sure this is not the first time. However, how we address that is by showing them a video wherein we tell them that as a child, as a baby elephant, if you could if you put his leg in a chain and you just put it in a corner and you asked or you requested someone to just keep an eye on the elephant would make a few attempts and he would not be able to, of course, being a child, he would not be able to break the chain. Now as the elephant grows stronger and the elephant is now an adult, he or she has the capability of breaking the chain. However, because of this limiting beliefs, because something did not work twice or thrice for me, I would never be able to do anything. So once we show that video, then we talk of what is an assumed constraint. Anything that won't stay focused, you won't stay focused on because you're concerned that you're getting behind a task or email by attending to that. Or I mean, there could be various reasons. So few reasons we've kept here. One example, if we could take and if we could discuss with you how to flip it. People would have asked you, I'm sure on occasions your manager would have ever spoken with you, certain leaders would have asked you, how could you look at it differently? Now imagine the capability to look at it differently yourself. So I'll be present and stay focused on learning without multitasking, because what I learn will help take my career to the next level. Just 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 repeat that to yourself before the beginning of any training, and see how it affects your behavior and your perspective towards that training. I can assure you the next thing is that you will move to an action point where you will say, I'll check email or text only during breaks, because now this is something which impacts me directly and this is going to have an effect on my career. So we discuss this in greater detail with the participants. Then we move to the next, which is the skill set part of it. Once we have addressed their limiting belief, we would like to move to the skill set part of it, because once they've come to a realization that there's a limiting belief at play here, the next is you would want to get certain tools or skills to address that challenge. Otherwise, we'll be leaving you high and dry. So, how we address that is we take you through these three key deliverables of SL2. However, this is, as I qualified earlier, this is more from the perspective of individuals. So first is how do you write your goals? So we have our ideology of SMART goals, though it is not the generic SMART goals as you would have learned or you would have experienced in some other sessions as well. So here we try to stress on STRAM goals. We are talking of SMART. We are talking of specificity in S. We are talking of being. Hello, Rajesh. Could I please
Hello.
request you to? I'll stop your video share, please. I'm sure you'll appreciate why I've done that. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you. So moving on. So we are talking of SMART goals. We said that we look at STRAM as a strategy. We try to see if your goals are clarified, specific, or to specificity, or to trackability. Now that is the first two important aspects for us. Once we are able to do that, MAR, do the goals continue to stay motivating for you? Are they attainable? And are they relevant? Is extremely important for us to check. So here's a sheet that we provide to our participants. We expect them to go through this. We expect them to take every goal and do a check and then see, does my goal need to be clarified, negotiated, or reframed again? If none of that is required, then you have managed to create a true STRAM goal or true SMART goal. Now, this is what we do here. We talk of an example of an individual who's learning how to ride a bicycle. Taking that, we explain the idea of diagnosis to you. So I'm sure all of us will agree. What do you think is better? Uh, Diagnosing appropriately, spending some time in diagnosing something, or going by a generally accepted idea? Would you like it if you went to a doctor and the doctor said, okay, I understand that a flu is almost, you know, it's there, it's rampant, so let's just give you antibiotics. Would you want a diagnosis to be appropriately done, or would you want your doctor to go by a generally accepted idea of what the challenge is and provide a solution to that? You could unmute yourself and speak, or you could write it in the chat box. I'm sure I'll get that. Thank you very much, Preeti. You're absolutely correct. Disha,
We need to
yes.
diagnose.
Yes, please. Prasanna, thank you.
Obviously diagnose.
Obviously diagnose. We would want that doctor. We feel satiated when the doctor spends enough time in diagnosing it. And what we mean by diagnosis here is diagnosing what is your current development level. Now, imagine the challenge or imagine the benefits of being able to do that, and imagine the challenge of being dependent on others to tell you what which development level you are. If we could pass on that capability to you, imagine how wonderful that experience would be. So, a person who's trying to learn how to bicycle, if you look at D1, the photograph of this lady, she has taken the bicycle in her hand for the first time with the idea of learning how to ride it. How does she look? She looks excited.
Yeah.
She looks
Yeah.
excited, yes.
Yes.
And yet she does not know how to drive. So in the skill part of it or competence part of it, she is low. However, she looks very excited. Yes, absolutely. I agree with all of you where you say she is happy and excited. Correct. So this is a classical D1 state wherein the individual is excited because he or she is attempting it for the first time, yet the skills they lack. So what is it that a leader needs to provide, or what is it that they need to ask from their leader? They need to ask from their leader skills, because that is where they lack, right? So they will need an instructor who will assist them in finding that. The D2 level is where you find that the individual has attempted how to ride the bicycle or to ride the bicycle, and you see that the individual has managed to fall down. Looking at the picture, what do you think is the current state of mind? Is she excited anymore, or is she dejected, and possibly she has given up on the idea of riding the bicycle?
Disappointed. Difficult.
Disappointed. You're absolutely correct. She looks disappointed.
Disappointed.
Wonderful. Absolutely. Fear. Yes, Pralay. It could be fear as well. It could lead to fear as well. She's learning the lesson. She would want to give up. I agree with almost all of you. Uh, so that's absolutely correct. She's not all excited and almost has given up. Correct, Suman. So
Frustrated.
in this situation, what do you think the leader needs to do? Continue to give directions, or
Let's go ahead.
correct? So the leader needs to first provide some support conversation,
Support, yeah.
and then further to that, provide certain more direction. Do you think while the person has fallen down, if someone stands on the head and starts telling the, this is what you did incorrect, this is where you went wrong, I think you should have done this. Do you think that would have worked?
No, not it will not work.
It will not work.
As a leader, you should not actually do that.
I
Correct.
should demonstrate and he will guide.
Correct. So I completely agree with all of you. So she is demotivated, and the leader should first motivate her, and then the leader should provide guidance. Now imagine if she could herself tell the leader that I am feeling demotivated. If you could please provide some motivation, and if you could support me in this activity because I'm fairly challenged here, and if you could assist me in specific steps about how to attempt it again. Won't that be great? Rather than the leader being, rather than the person being dependent on the leader. Similarly, in the D3 stage, the development level 3, you see that the person is trying to maneuver or manage a few things which usually a person who rides the bicycle does not really encounter. So possibly the chain has come off and she's trying to put the chain back. Hi Bina, I am stopping the video share, please. Thank you. So when that happens, what do you think? What do you think that leads to? Here, she is absolutely confident of trying to ride, and she is doing a fabulous job at a few things, maneuvering the turns, etc. However, there are certain occasions when she will feel challenged. All the leader needs to do here is,
Provide
yes,
technical support.
provide technical support, a little technical support, and more of motivation. That yes, you can do that. If at all you know, what would an ideal instructor do? He would say, if at all you encounter such a challenge, just give me a shout. I'm there. However, I trust you that you can manage these things. Motivation and guidance. Yes, correct. Absolutely. In some measure or the other. So we inform them of what is required in which state. In the last state, you will find D4, or the aspirational stage of being self-reliant. Here she has managed to bicycle up or ride up a mountain cliff. So we can fairly assume that she is adept at almost all kinds of challenges that she can encounter now. Great. So almost all agree that now the person has almost managed to go past all the hurdles, all the challenges that they encounter.
Yes, yes.
So this is what is the ideal definition of self-reliant achiever. Yeah. So here we will like to assume that they know everything. They just need specific direction about which mountain to climb and which day and which time to climb, etc. And then let them be creative because they have that capability. So this is what we inform them of. And then when we have managed to diagnose it, then we help them identify where they are actually or really in each task or goal that they wrote. Imagine the capability to be able to diagnose yourself on each goal and task, and then ask for an appropriate matching style from your manager. So what could be the challenges in that assessment? The first could be, do they have a clear diagnosis? They could be challenged there. They may not have a clear diagnosis. Next could be, do they have a muddy diagnosis? They're still confused where they are.
Yeah, they don't know their capabilities and they have low confidence.
Correct. So this is usually a challenge of a person who does not have some structured way of arriving at a decision. Yeah. If we were to inform you that that is possible, then people will think that possibly we are talking of thin air. However, this is precisely what this program delivers. How do you specifically specific to your own capability, your own competence and commitment, how do you diagnose your development level on certain tasks? So what we see here, 4, 5, 5, 6 is on 4 tasks, the person is in D4, on 5 in D3, on 5 in D2, on 6 in D1. However, there's every possibility that they have a muddy diagnosis where they are not so sure if they are there. And there are times that they will have a split diagnosis. They would themselves not be sure if they are in D1 or D2 on specific tasks. So when that happens, the biggest challenge that they face is not being able to take a decision there. They're not able to take a decision because they're not sure. They have a split diagnosis. How do we assess them? When inform them to take the reference of their performance, map it here and see if they are in D2 or D3. If they're confused if they are in D2 or D3 or in migratory phase, just ask them to check where their performance is indicating it, and that is what we take. So this is where we request the self leaders to go for reflection, because reflection is where the real learning is. We may give you a lot of tools, we may give you a lot of capability. Unless you reflect, you would not be able to change much. Post this reflection, we discuss with them what are the directive leadership behaviors and what are the supportive leadership behaviors. Because when they need to reach out to their managers, they should be equipped with the capability to ask for an appropriate leadership style, is what we firmly believe in. So you will find in direction, I'm sure if you read these 7 behaviors, you will agree that these are all towards direction, giving direction. And in supportive behaviors, you will find that these are providing confidence, they are motivating people, and they are acknowledging and encouraging them. Moving ahead, we now try to discuss with them. We had, I'm sure you will recall, we had earlier discussed about the challenge of assumed constraints. Here, what we do is we flip their idea, we flip their mindset, and here we start talking of what are their points of power. There are 5 defined points of power, which is position power, task power, personal power, relationship power, and knowledge power. Now, with respect to these individuals that they have to identify, or they have identified, or we force them to identify, we would ask them if they are a good listener or not. When they are talking to their CEO or owner, when they are talking to the daughter of the boss, when they're talking to the certified project manager, What are the points of power that they have with these individuals that they enjoy? Do they have position power, task power, personal power, relationship power, or knowledge power? And this is where it becomes very, very coherent with our discussion of limiting beliefs. You create your limiting beliefs yourself. Otherwise, there's a lot of power here. And it's all right for you to take other people's reference here. Once they do this, once they map it here, they will get something like this. Yeah. And this will give them a clear idea about in which relationship, which power they have to use. As we say that leadership cannot be static, it's the same here. Your point of power that you enjoy with any individual could be very different. This is an explanation of the points of power. So position power is having the title or authority to make certain decisions. Now, what do we mean by that? So you have a written, documented, policy-driven, hierarchical power. You have certain authority and you can take certain decisions. Task power, having control over the task of a particular job. You may not have a dotted line authority over an individual. However, because of the matrixed organizational culture, or because there's a certain project that because of your specific skills you have been assigned to, you are managing these people. So you may have that power. Personal power. In personal power, what we talk of is having an interpersonal and leadership skill which you are able to exercise. So you will find that even in a group of friends, there are certain people who are relatively more influential, whose statements and whose ideas are readily accepted as compared to others. Yes? Or do you think that I'm incorrect here?
Yeah, true.
Correct.
In any relationship, you will
Correct.
experience that. Yeah?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. So even in teams, in your organization, you will experience this aplenty around you. So this is what we precisely mean here. Relationship power is being connected with other people who have power. Am I incorrect in saying there are certain people who are very, very understated? They stay subtle. However, if the need be, they can reach out to any individual and people will be happy to assist them. They are so non-controversial. They are so amiable and acceptable everywhere that if they reach out to anyone and seek a favor, they will definitely get it. Though they do not exercise personal power there. They don't.
Sorry to disturb. What
No,
is
please.
knowledge power and task power?
I will come to knowledge power. Task power is if there is a specific task which which can draw a lot of value from your skills, and that is why you have been made a task leader or a project leader, then you may not have dotted line authority over certain people, yet you will have task power because it is your responsibility to task them on that specific or particular job because you have control over it. That's task power. We will come to knowledge power. We have not reached there yet. Thank you.
Okay.
So as we were discussing, it's very, very important to differentiate between personal power and relationship power. In personal power, we are talking of people who have that persona, who have that personality, and who have that inherent trait of being a leader in any group or any conversation that they are a part of. So you will find these individuals exercising a lot of authority even in an informal group. You will find that their ideas are generally more accepted. You will find that the suggestions that they give, they put it so vociferously and they back it so strongly that most of the people back away and they say, all right, let's just try this, let's just go with it. And people tend to generally trust them for their instinct. Have you experienced that?
Yeah,
Is in
that are-
personal
Yes.
power or in a relationship power?
Yeah, many times.
Yes. Right. So
Yes.
on and contrary to this personal power, you will find that in relationship power, there are individuals who are not particularly stressing their authority. They are not holding any task power, and they also do not demonstrate huge leadership. They don't demonstrate their control over a group. Thanks, Kavya. Yes, I agree. And there are times that an individual could have multiple points of power, depending upon where or which group or which scenario they're operating in. So to some extent, also is an agreeable answer to this. When we talk of relationship power, we are talking of individuals who are so well connected with everyone that they do not necessarily try to create challenges with people. They do not confront people. They are usually very, very unbiased. They are usually very amiable. However, it is generally accepted that whenever they seek a favor from people, they manage to get their attention, and they manage to get the job done. Have you experienced such individuals around you in your organization, generally in the groups that are around you? I'm sure you would have experienced this. Seemingly very, very, very docile, lame, timid. They would not like to, intimidate anyone. However, if at all it comes to their job and they need to get it done, you just say, "Can you please request?" Because people tend to agree to you all the time, and they just go and make a request, and people say, "Okay, you've always been nice to me. Let me just do that." Now, these are the people who are extremely good at leveraging their relationship power. They are usually that glue. Even when there are fights in the groups in the organization, there's some skirmish or some debate or discussion, a heated discussion, you will find that they go divergent ways, and these are the people who are good with all. Almost everyone is okay with them despite them being in the group, and they come back to them. This is what this person said and I did not like it. The other person says this is what the other person. Somehow people feel an urge to clarify everything to them, and they are usually the people who are amiably trying to bring everyone together. So they work as the glue. So these are the people, in organizational studies, we call them the nodules of communication. So you will have divergent spokes, but these people usually tend to be the hub of all communication which is flowing through. And because that is so, they are able to exercise extreme relationship power. They can get anybody to assist them in their job. Moving ahead to knowledge power, having a relevant experience, expertise, or credential. Now, what do we mean by this? This is one power which transcends above all power. So if you have relevant experience, expertise, and credentials, it is generally believed that even people in position power would like to respect you, would like to take your help, would like to make you heads of certain projects that are important to them. People who have task power, though a task has been assigned to them because of possibly some traits of knowledge power, yet if it is more customary that a job is to be assigned to a certain manager of a certain level of seniority, etc., they usually tend to depend on these people because these people have knowledge power. They have that expertise and they have that past experience which is relevant, and their credentials are also strong. So these people usually transcend over all other points of power, be it personal power, be it relationship power. They stamp their authority over any other point of power when they have specific knowledge power. Yeah. So having relevant experience, expertise, and credentials. So moving ahead, have we understood this completely, or do you want to discuss this more? Isn't it because you have task power, you also get position power? No, not necessarily. So let's say there is a CMD of an organization. He may or may not be presiding over a certain task. To answer your question, Ajaya, because you asked that question to me. So, so it may not necessarily be true. The CMD of an organization has an overarching power over everyone. He may or may not be, or she may or may not be managing that specific task. So it could be contextual.
Okay.
Yeah. Generally, personal power will be overridden by position and relationship power. Generally, personal power. Now, personal power, it tends to look like that. Seemingly, it is so. However, you will find there are times relationship power overpowers personal power. There are a lot of times wherein a person who's seemingly very docile and tacit will get his work done, while the person with personal power is just managing the tangents, which is the most powerful power there. So Linda, I do not have an exact answer to that. I would say any point of power which you exercise and which you leverage, you should be aware that you have that point of power in any relationship. All of them have their own pros and cons. I think it is more embedded in the situation or scenario that you're encountering than Any specific power.
Is it more of a situational leadership what you are talking about?
Correct, correct. So
The
this is
personal-
all situational.
Personal power and knowledge power should be same. No? It's anyway related to personal knowledge also.
In personal power, we were talking of personality trait of being in a leadership role. There are times you will find that people who don't even understand things appropriately, they manage to lead that discussion. So in hospitals, you will find usually hospitals are managed by people who are MBAs. They do not have any expertise in medical field, yet they are managing the hospitals, and they are presiding over the doctors who are experts in the field. So you really don't know. Yeah, there is no definite answer to that. There are things which may play out differently for you while you do not have expertise. Things may still play out differently for you. You really don't know. So you have to be very cautious about which point of power to exercise. You first need to be very clear in articulating it to yourself, and then it is.
On a lighter side, Corona is a most powerful power right now.
So I think it has the positional power, and we lack knowledge power. So we know little or nothing about it, and it has a lot of positional power. It has positioned itself.
Good answer.
Sure, Suman, no worries. Please, thank you very much for attending it. It was quite an insightful slide.
I still don't get the difference between relationship power and personal power. They tend to overlap, I believe.
Sure. So personal power is where your personality is such that you tend to exuberate leadership in almost all of your interactions with people. You will find there are certain people who are inherently very authoritative. They tend to preside over in conversations. Their mannerism, the way they interact with everyone, the way they conduct themselves is so authoritative that people tend to generally agree with them. While on the other side, the relationship power is absolutely opposite to that. These are the people who, while there are tangential discussions going on, they work as the glue in the group, who bring everyone together. Even if a person is, exhibiting authority and there are others who are challenging it, this is the individual who's just keeping everyone together. So this is where the relationship power comes in, wherein this individual who keeps everyone together. And in personal power, this is the individual who exerts authority and leadership. So these are tangential personalities. However, they manage to get their job done in their own way. And you will find that relationship power tends to, you would not really find it that evident. However, you will see that they keep getting their job done despite people realizing what they are managing to achieve.
I also think that this particular different types of power, everybody has a certain amount of powers, each one of it, and they exhibit as per the situation.
I completely agree with your point here. So, as you encounter certain scenarios, you also realize which point of power you have. So let me go back to my slide, the previous slide. You will find this is made for just one person. This is made for just one person. And in personal power, you will find you are a very good listener. You will find that usually these are the people, as I had shared with you, these are the people whom people like to come to park their grievances against others in the same group. Yeah. And you will find the same person has task power over two assistant who schedules CEO appointments and IT members responsible for internal client requests. He has task power over them. He tasks them. With the CEO or owner, he has positional power. Possibly we are talking of CMD here. Yeah. So you need to be careful of what is it that you exhibit. What is it that you have? You can also look at it differently. A good listener will have personal power. A good listener will usually have personal power. The CEO or owner will have positional power. The daughter of the boss will have relationship power. Do you understand it? She doesn't have to exert authority, etc. She has just relationship power. She is goody and chivy bubbly with everyone. She goes and speaks with everyone. Uncle, I need this or this and that. I'm just assuming. and she gets her job done, and she does not have to exert any pressure or any. She does not need to exercise any other power. And the assistant who schedules CEO's appointments has task power. So seemingly he does not have authoritative power over a lot of people, but because he's the assistant to CEOs, to the CEO, and he schedules his appointment, he tends to have the task power. So if you want to get your appointment with the CEO, you need to be in good books with this person.
This will come under relationship power also, since he is assistant to CEO. So he gets it done everything without any difficulties. This may come under relationship power also, right?
Yes, if she is managing to get everything done. So there are two assumptions here. One is that this assistant is definitely a she, and second assumption is that she is getting other tasks also done aside from scheduling the appointments. If that is there, then I'm absolutely with you. Yes, we are absolutely correct there.
Is there any relationship to move from one power to another power? Say like you have a good in personal power, so that like you will be elevated to position power. Something like any correlations between
right. So
powers.
let's say I'm your colleague. For a very long time, I have been overperforming and I have been overachieving my targets. Then I am made the head of this team, the team that I was earlier working with. If that happens, then suddenly I start exhibiting positional power instead of relationship power. Yeah.
Okay. And also, how about this knowledge power? Still, like, is that a dominating power or overall all these powers?
Knowledge power usually is respected by all, because be it a person in position, be it a person who has task to achieve, everyone needs that result, and for that you need a person who has experience in that, who has credentials and credibility going with them. So people tend to value people with knowledge power. You will find a lot of high potentials falling in that bracket. You will find a lot of go-to people in every team that the manager says, if this needs to be definitely done, then let's give it to this person. If you are still iffy about it and you think that it can be or may not be done, then let's give it to that other person.
But, okay.
I'm sure we all would have heard of that. Yeah.
Make you not like use and throw kind of.
No, not at all. Not at all. We would never talk of exploiting people.
So people are nowadays feeling like that.
That's like this. The position power comes, right? The position power will make use of the other power and say like on time it over. Then maybe not.
I think
look for someone else.
I think that was not the context in which we were delivering this, but if that happens to be some experience, then I would not discount it also. So I'll just move ahead. Assuming that we have understood knowledge power too. So
I got it.
Yeah, sure. So what is your points of power is something that we discuss with them at length. You could be at a certain tangent somewhere, could be at a completely different tangent somewhere else with respect to your task at hand, and then you create a star of where you are, and then you try to build on your weaknesses is where we want to take you to. So you start building on your weaknesses. You realize that you tend to have positional power, yes, however you may not have the task power. Yeah. Or possibly you lack knowledge power, because of which you are dependent on others. So while it informs you of your challenges, your powers, your strengths, it also very clearly helps you understand where your challenges are and where you need to work a lot more. Yeah.
Any assessment tool is available to assess self, because like I may think that like I'm good in knowledge or position or anything, but
Correct.
I may not be. Okay.
Correct.
So something like that. So everyone thinks that like they are good in one area, but not really. So how do we exactly find out that where people are there?
So as Yogesh, our CMD, says, people tend to have a higher than actual assessment of self, and they tend to have lower than actual assessment of others. So having very good confidence. Now, confidence in what? Confidence because of your authority, or confidence because of your knowledge? So this is what we need to granularly define. Lena, if I'm getting your question correct, this is what we need to answer appropriately before we arrive at a solution. Yeah. So not realizing your own power could be your greatest assumed constraint is a very strong punchline that we give in this program. If you don't even realize there's a power that exists with you or lies within you, and that is self-realization, isn't it? So it could be the greatest assumed constraint. And I'm sure we had spoken about assumed constraints at the beginning of this session, so you would be able to relate to that. This is where we leave people and batch open to a lot of reflection on, where is it that your actual power lies. Thank you very much, Kanika, for answering the question. So what people want from work. Now, this is a very interesting slide. So few aspects that we have written here that we believe people want from work, and it'll be really interesting to see how it moves. Now, this is how employees have rated what they want from work, and see where their managers have rated it, what they think is more important to them. And this is research based. So anything that we do in Blanchard is very thickly researched. This is a researched data that we're presenting to you. Yeah. So employees versus managers, you can very clearly see a disconnect there. So there's every possibility of there being a disconnect, and that is why we say managers are not mind readers. And that is why there was a question, is there an assessment? Yes. The perceptions of self-leadership grade, where are you, in goal setting, where are you in diagnosing, where are you in your conversations, etc. You map yourself, and then your manager maps you. And you will find that there are very few places, especially in D2 conversations, where you have found a definitive match. So this is a very good grid. This is a very good survey that we run, and then we present this report to the individuals, wherein they are able to see their own assessment of how capable they are, and how their manager experiences their capability and confidence in their capability. The next step, this is where we end the session usually. And the next step is the master assignment. Now the master assignment, like any Blanchard program, there's a pre-assessment, which is a self-assessment that we take. It's called EDGE. Now in this assessment, a report similar to what you have seen now would come and would inform individuals or participants of where they are. Now in the next step, which is the master assignment, this is what we give them. Use the perceptions of self-leadership interpretation guide to incorporate your manager's responses and interpret the results. We inform them how to read the tangential information. Where have you scored higher than your manager's perception? Where have you scored lower than your manager's perception? Where was it a perfect match? So we inform you of how to read this information. We also tell you how to use the one-on-one worksheet, wherein we tell you how to plan your discussions with your manager, wherein you write your task on the left side. In the middle is your development level, as you would have diagnosed it, learning the skill that you would have. And then, next to that would be your response after the conversation. And this is a very intact program, and very soon Blanchard will be announcing a virtual workshop on this program, because this program is available in virtual delivery as well. It'll be great if you could nominate your people from your organizations for this session. The next, yes, please.
Hey, sorry to disturb you. Will we be having the details sent to email, or how it will be?
Yes, the details will be shared by the BD or the person who contacted you or shared the details of this webinar with you. The details of the open workshop will also be shared by the individual. Thank you very much for showing your interest in this.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sushant. A good session. Yes, thank you very much. So schedule and conduct a one-on-one conversation with your manager within next 2 weeks is what we request people to do. And next is, we just ask them to reflect on how do you challenge the assumed constraints, and what are your commitments with respect to your self-leadership. What is it that you're willing to commit to yourself on all these aspects. Now, this is a thought with which we would like to end our session today. In a world crying out for effective leadership, you need to begin with the most obvious source, which is yourself. I thank you all for joining the session and joining the journey to self-leadership. Thank you very much.